We are back and ready to get into game number 3. So far, Alucard is leading the pack on that 10.5 points, with Dragon close behind on 9. But the number everyone really needs to be concerned about is that 20. So we know that no one can put the lobby in check as of yet in this one. But this is the stage now where people can start to say, okay, if I do well here, at least maybe the top 4 can say, oh, I only need a top 4, maybe even a 5th or something to just get those few extra points to push it over 20. Because once that happens, it opens the door for that player that if they win the next lobby, they win the whole thing, and the day becomes very short indeed.
It does, yeah. It means that we've passed the shortest possible day already,
Yes.
Which is a first, second, or a first for a given player to hit 20 points, and then they win the lobby from that position. That absolutely can no longer happen. We can still have someone tie B-Nice's record from this spot still, though, I believe, which could be very interesting. Raven, I'm going to lose my mind. This is
not on, is it?
This can't keep happening. You can't keep giving people Shudderwock when there's no beasts. Hello? Are the bans wrong? What's happening?
I don't know. I assume the bans are not incorrect that we show on the top right of the screen there.
Me too.
But we'll see what the plan is. But I will say, this has even crossed over into my frustration as a constructed hunter main to see no beasts upset me in Battlegrounds, Sol. So yeah, it's a very, very strange one indeed. We are cursed to not see the minion type we do want to see. But yeah, we are going to see Yanase pick the Shudderwock regardless. So exciting to see what he can do over there. And maybe we can check in on Yuanse with Finley just to see what he chose to pick up with his hero power, because I missed it.
Makes sense.
But we've definitely got a different group of heroes so far.
Well, this is a puzzle, isn't it?
Well, it was used.
It was
There's
used,
no coin in hand.
indeed.
Health's not reduced. Oh.
Pot. Okay, yeah. I was going through the motion. Okay, it was used. There's no combat buff on the minion. There's no resource in hand. What's been done here? But yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so effectively 2 cookies in this lobby. With Alucard being on the natural one, of course. Dragon now is going to be on the Ashara. So if he can make that work, that can definitely help propel him towards that easy finish for the next lobby to be able to get that 20 points. Max already, though, looking for the early triple.
Yeah, has it frozen already? Weirdly, Maev's triples kind of want to come on a cadence sometimes one turn later than this. Like, you'd really love to hit your, or have your first triple frozen at a certain point and then freeze a second triple right after that, just so they come into hand perfectly on that 6 curve. But obviously if you hit the triple as early as possible, you're never going to turn your nose up at that.
Yeah, again, I guess to explain for some people that may not really have much experience on Maev, but is it fair to assume that this triple will be hero powered and not just picked up for now?
Correct, yes. It might even... Yeah, okay, so this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? The cadence of where he wants it is 1 turn later than what seems obvious. So by hero powering the other minion instead, he'll now freeze that 1 more turn. Then next turn, he will level for 2, he'll buy some other minion, and then he'll hero power the Micro Mummy. And what that means, if you break that down the next 3 turns from the point he's hero powering the Micro Mummy, that triple comes into his hand on the turn he presses the button to level to 5 and therefore can triple into a 6. He doesn't want it to happen any earlier than that because he doesn't want to triple into any other minion except a 6-drop, and he absolutely does not want to hold the triple in his hand for any amount of time because they're his 2 biggest minions on board right now that he'd be tripling, and he would end up basically getting damage capped guaranteed on every turn that he did that.
And one thing that I think's really good about this start from Max, and one thing I've suffered from when playing Maev as well, is setting all this up. slows you down to an extent, right? Because using hero powers that do nothing for a while effectively and so on. But his board with the double micro mummy and then the chroma wing, whilst he's going to be leveling fairly aggressively going forward, it's fairly competitive, right? He probably isn't going to take that much damage, at least in the next turn or so. And a lot of the time as Maiev, you will see Maiev at the first half of the game drop pretty low and then pop off, right? Because that's just the way the hero plays. But here, he's managing to retain health, which I think is a super big buff to his chances of actually getting to endgame in a very safe health state.
Yeah, second Omu game now for Zixo, taking a slower curve, it seems here, than he was previously, but plenty of tavern discount with the Swabbies. But just to finish the Maiev point, yeah, I absolutely agree, and I think it's something that took players a little bit of time to work out when Maiev was introduced to the game, because early on, I think people were like, whoa, I mean, like, Murloc token, Beast token, if I hero power then, I'm making money with my hero power. That's insane, right? And so Elemental came in, same thing, like, wow, I hero power that, I'm making profit. It's hero power gamblers, they give me 3 gold later in the game. No, 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 no. What you want to do is hero power tempo minions, buy tempo minions. So while you're doing all this nonsense with Maiev, setting up dormant minions, waiting for them to come into your hand and then greeding triples, you're defending as much health as you possibly can. And micro mummies in pairs are about as high tempo as it gets on Tavern 1.
We'll check in with Alucard now on the natural cookie. Again, all the players appear to be, really focused on the board state itself and trying to just keep up. Again, it's getting to that point where there are a good chunk of players that will be happy with, just a middle result. Obviously, they'd love to win the lobby, but just happy with a middle result to give them the best chance possible at hitting 20 next game.
The natural cookie expression. Yeah. The no preservatives, no added sugar.
Yeah. Natural
cookie. I saw something advertised at a market not too long ago as chemical-free, like food. What? Everything's made of chemicals. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's it's like a weird. It's like one of those weird things. Is how literally do you take this word?
Mm-hmm.
Atom-free food.
Yes.
Wait a minute.
Exactly.
Early Siren, early Shoal Commander, or early-ish, should I say? Like, again, the best tag team you can have at this point in the game, especially when there's no thieves in the lobby, which is what you're looking for. Dragon's going to clean this up nicely and push an okay amount of damage, but his opponent did manage to save himself a little bit.
Yeah, big deal for the natural cookie. Yeah, what are you doing? I'm very curious. What's your plan? What does your board look like right now? What's your plan? Okay, Swabbies, cool.
Yeah, that's it.
It is.
1 mana,
indeed.
level up, I guess.
Mm-hmm. To be fair, 35 health, triple frozen in shop, discounted tavern, and now incredibly discounted tavern with the hero powers and now the extra coins from the shell collector as well. Having now looked at it, I would say this is a kind of mediocre early game for the Shudderwock to have found here, right? Like, very minimal, with Swabbies and Naga both in. I say Swabbies as if that's a minion type on its own. It kind of is for Shudderwock, but you get the point.
Yeah.
Only hitting 3 of those over the course of 6 turns up until this point is probably below average. And he's actually still in a pretty good position, right? Like, maybe I'm undervaluing No Beast Shudderwock if the other 2 are in. Because I've talked about the dream Shudderwock lobby before, right? Which is Beast, Quills, Pirates, and Naga. If all 4 of those in, you win as Shudderwock. Like, you just do. It's just over. The game ends, you win. Yeah. But maybe just the combination of Pirate and Naga on their own is just enough to get those tavern discounts and the extra economy to be able to make those 6-drop triples happen. It's kind of very interesting.
I will say, I think I was telling you earlier this morning about, like, I played Shudderwock, Beasts were in, but I only got I bought 1 single token Beast, right? and then the rest of it was just tavern reductions, and I hit a triple. So if you remove the beast and just act like, well, that triple is the triple, then yeah, it's not the strongest you can be, but it's not weak, especially if he hits Athisa, you know, like straight away. Like, you've done the job then. Who cares about the hero power?
Just to shout it out, it might be happening this turn, right? I'm not sure how much Shudder can get on the other side with selling minions, swabbies discounting, leveling, swabbies discounting again, coins then going to 5, but it might all be possible this turn.
I'm sure we can
the
check
Shudder
in
to get the 6.
Yeah, here we go. And the buttons are being pressed.
Yep, down to 7. Wow, he doesn't even have to sell that much.
Yeah.
He doesn't even have to sell at all.
Just the reduction's just strong, right?
And then coin, buy.
Yeah,
he actually had to sell 0 minions to get this done. Okay, I am reevaluating my stance on Shudderwock No Beasts as we speak. You're watching it happen live.
So, in a weird way, obviously you have to hit a triple, right? Like, that's very key.
Hello? That turn wasn't finished. Come on.
But in a weird way, do you think, like, Shell Collector actually kind of makes up for the lack of beasts? Because you're gaining those coins as well as the tavern reduction. So as long as you can find a triple, you get to do the thing, right? Which is the main goal.
100% why I've been flying the Shudderwock flag this whole time, right? Like, since Murloc tokens got taken out, Shudderwock has taken a little bit of a hit, right? It was playable with beasts in, but otherwise, meh, what are you going to do? And even then, it's kind of a risk with just beasts in, right? Since Naga are introduced, and because Naga are in every lobby, you have Battle Cry add a coin to your hand in every single lobby, right? Which immediately throws Shudderwock a huge bone in terms of win condition. What I hadn't factored in is the ability to do all that and to afford to buy a Warrior Curve triple while leveling 2 extra levels over what everyone else is doing on that same
Without
turn,
spam selling minions as well.
Without selling anything from your board. That's ridiculous. Like, that's so much more economy than I say calculated. I hadn't calculated. That's the point. It's
estimated.
It's kind of done on feel, right? And on feel, it didn't feel like you should be able to do that. And like I said, that was below average, I would say, for number of swabbies and shell collectors that you would get over the course of a Warrior Curve up until that point. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, you're watching it happen. I'm changing my mind. It does happen sometimes, believe it or not. Yeah.
This is recorded.
Believe it or not, when presented with data and good arguments, my mind does change. It actually happens quite often.
That's what I've been doing wrong.
That's the thing. That's where this misconception that, you know, like I'm stubborn and single-minded comes from. Because the only person I get to talk to on a regular basis is you. And why would I change my mind based on anything you say? It's all nonsense.
I know what I have to do. Just wait till next time. Okay, so again, bit of a mishmash of a board here from 6-0 and under threat, sitting on just 11 health, which means even with the shield that's up for everyone right now, it's just not going to be good enough, right? The damage cap just will still kill 6-0 if it's 11 plus, so little bit dangerous overall. 6-0 also currently only sitting on 6.5 points going into this game, which is kind of a 5th, 6th position right now. So if he gets knocked out early, he will be put back a good amount so far in this race to 20.
Yeah, absolutely. It's once again just a very scrappy game for Zixo, not the juice you want to be hitting on Omu for sure. Like, the triple has happened by the looks of things, and it's hit a fell bat, and you can see the reaction on his face to it, right? Like, he knows this should have been the game. Omu finding the early triple, tons of economy as well with the coins being fed into hand, but just not finding the win condition. And speaking of finding the win condition, the early triple, the cadence, the leveling pattern had been worked out by the Maiev, and you see that beautiful reward of the Athisa on the other side.
Yeah, and Max on that Maiev is just...
Ooh, excellent final attack from 6-0. Sorry to cut you off, but that was a crucial final attack to keep him alive then.
Yeah, lives to fight another day. Shudderwock going down to 2 health as well for Yannisei. But yeah, also, I was just going to say, for Max, 25 health on Maiev at this point, when he's basically set up, more or less, is pretty solid.
Oh, Kitty offered with 2, 4, and 11 as 3 players' health total left remaining on this board.
Can we quickly check who 6-0 or Yannis is fighting? Sorry. Just very, very interested to see what's going on here. Okay, so he's fighting the Cookie.
Versus Alucard. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. We can go back if you want.
Look at this board! It's popped off. It's happened.
Interestingly enough, though, he's fighting Ashara, so he's going to be fighting All-Dragon, who is currently sitting top of the board right now. But again, like, is it going to be strong enough? All-Dragon also has an Athisa, also has a Naga board as well, that at least at a glance to me, Soto, looks like it could just be a little bit stronger. But with the Foe Reaper, it looks close.
Yeah, I mean, that single Divine Shield Cleave Foe Reaper kills all but one of All-Dragon's minions, right? Obviously it's not going to kill 6 things, but essentially if it cleaves into any spot that doesn't involve the 30-33, it's killing 3 things straight away and staying alive, right? So I would imagine that cleave on its own is making him favored from this position, regardless of the rest of the board.
The good thing here for All-Dragon, though, even if he does lose this fight, he can take it, right? A lot of the times, like with 29, he can take a hit, and he knows with time he scales, and he gets the first attack off, which is a little bit unfortunate, the Divine Shield. Okay. Absolutely.
A good old family cleaver.
Yeah, look, kids not in.
Over the final trades don't go through. The Athisa cleans up the last 2 minions. Shudderwock is dead. Did the Panda pick the Kitty? Oh, yeah, okay. Sour King is going to start juicing here. Did Zixo die as well? That's the other crucial question. No, Zixo survives, so it's just the Shudderwock that Sour King's going to get to select from. Take that, Foe Reaper. It's so big. He doesn't get to see it, of course, but it has those permanent stat buffs and Divine Shield Taunt on it as well, I believe, as permanent enchantment. So that is huge in terms of overall tempo for Sour King in this position. Great pickup. Called it out straight away. That Kitty could have been a huge role for Sour King on the turn. He got it with 3 players being eligible to die on that point. It didn't go as well as it could have done with Zixo surviving and with, who was the other? Oh, I guess, okay, I realize I'm being stupid because the other player who I factored in as having 11 health was Sour King himself on that turn, I believe. Yeah, okay. So not as potentially high payoff as it could have been, but still a really good outcome.
Yeah, very, very solid indeed. And just a quick note as well, Yannis taking 8th place means he's going to still sit at a minimum of 7th place, potentially 8th if Sour King actually continues to do well here and survives a little bit longer. So, no surprise, just doing what he can possibly try and do to survive. Probably going to coin into the Leroy. Yeah, it makes sense. And this is just the scramble comp, isn't it? Just, okay, give me one more turn game. One more turn, let someone else die.
And giving Taunt to the Manted Queen as well, which is one of the possible roles it can have at start of combat. If you give Taunt to it already, that increases its chances of getting Divine Shield, which is, of course, the one that you really want. All-Dragon now, huge Athisa board. It is turn 10. I mean, I've certainly seen bigger at this point of the game, but we haven't really seen the monstrous full board of 40-40s that is possible at this point. But I suppose after the passive scaling, this isn't actually that far away from that at this point. There's the Divine Shield. That's so clutch, but a big first trade from the Athisa taking out the bigger minion before crashing into the Divine Shield.
Yeah, it looks like it's still going to be good enough. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's going to be at 6-0 out. And I was going to say, even though All-Dragon's board isn't, at maximum capacity right now, he is playing a Shara, which means he gets a 1 gold, just discover a Naga anyway. So as soon as he, he hits another self-cast sort of generator, then it's really going to start stacking. And there goes Yonsei on Finley as well. So he's going to...
And that means...
and Alucard, yeah.
Natural Cookie and Fully Made of Chemicals Cookie both went down in the same turn at the end of it all.
Yep. And 6, so that was a 3-player split, right, on deaths? Maybe some points shared out across the board, but now there's just a Millhouse with Dappy that we can see now. Sao King.
He's just jugglers again. It was Daffy last game that had gone jugglers next.
Funnily enough, like,
okay,
he's doing okay, right?
He's out. He's out. Yeah, I think in this case it was just because he's Millhouse. Millhouse is very much like whatever your shop is on any given turn, that's what your board is.
Yeah, you play
right?
what
like
you're given.
You just buy the stuff that you're given. You avoid rolling as much as humanly possible. Juggler goes out this time to make room for a bit more value with the mechs. But I think Dappy probably has the distinct impression that this is not getting there against the incoming Naga board on the other side.
Very, very true. But even if at worst this is like a solo 4th place finish for Dappy, Dappy went into this on 7.5 points, 4th place on the leaderboard right now, dropping in another 4th. Like, it's a solid setup for next game, right?
Looks like triple not being taken immediately, but is being frozen here for Sao King. Obviously, 2 Divine Shields. Combining those 2 permanent Divine Shields into 1 is not necessarily always an upside. I do think it is in most situations, though, because it opens up that board space for an additional Spellcraft minion generating spells for you at the end of the turn, which really, right now, Sao King doesn't really have any of, apart from that single glow scale on the right-hand side, which is doing the majority of the heavy lifting for him right now.
Yeah, and that's the issue, just no Siren, right? It is
no Siren.
Dramatically reducing down his stats per turn. Gonna be good enough
good
to survive,
trades
though.
at the end. Yeah, good trades at the end for Sao King just to be able to push that little bit of damage. Could have been worlds where ended up in a tie there and that little bit of damage wasn't pushed through. But I think important for Sao King to make hay while the sun shines here, because I think the other players will scale past him in this lobby. So I think important for him to deal damage where he can to try and improve his positioning. And of course, he has outlasted the Millhouse, who I think knew exactly what was going to be up there for Dappy. But hey, once again, Tempo and Mechs and Soul Jugglers and Death Rattles has got a player into top 4, so it is starting to come together just a little bit. That scrap for extra points by trying to play max tempo in positions where you are not hitting.
Yeah, and it does look like as well that Sao King actually will have the Ghost, right?
Yeah.
If All Dragon's facing Max on Maev, it means that there's a chance pretty easily that All Dragon beats Max, and then Sao King just sneaks in a 2nd place.
Looking at the board on the other side from Max, though, it's very, very similar. It's single Athissa from what we can see right now, which means even though the numbers are currently slightly bigger from what we're looking at on Max's board, Or Dragon is going to double scale at the end of the turn off double Athissa with the Siren, so might just blow past this. But I think the fight could actually end up being quite close indeed here.
And there's the Mantid, right, as well here for Max, which, you know, the right attack, especially considering, I believe... Oh no, yeah, never mind. It was a different player who had the Brute, wasn't it? So yeah, the Mantid could be clutch, especially if it manages to roll the Divine Shield. That's really what Max is missing, right? Divine Shield generation, doesn't have a glow scale on board.
Doesn't have a glow scale on board, does have one in hand though, and is just going to give it straight up to the Mantid Queen. I always think this is a difficult decision because he actually could have given the Mantid Taunt and Wind Fury with the spellcraft that he had, and then just given the Divine Shield to something else, and then there's decent odds at that point that you just roll the Divine Shield naturally on the Poison minion at that point, but he chose to go with the quote safe option of just throwing the Divine Shield Poison out there straight away.
Okay, well, good hits happening here for Max anyway.
Oh, that was a great hit. But in the end, just not good enough. But it is survival, which means that one of these two players is going to pick up the Ghost, and I think the other one is going to murder Sao King in this position. So I believe, Max now with that Ghost fight is probably going to lock himself out second in this position. Oh, actually, Sao King has now found himself a significant amount more scaling since we last dropped in, really using that Ghost fight to its fullest advantage. He might just have an opportunity here to make something happen. He's going to need some additions to the board for sure, but I think maybe maybe if this throws a triple at him, throws a Siren at him, okay, that's kind of the next best thing. But if that was to throw triple Athissa at him, if he's able to roll into Leroy's from this position, he might just be able to be competitive.
Yeah, and also when you're against Naga, you expect so much a glow scale on the board. It means that even if Zalking went for the Siren and wanted to end the turn with another Siren on board, which with 2 Athissas is completely fine. I've done it many, many times. You can just start with the 5-5 or, 5-4 or whatever it ends up being. It's going to be small. You can start with it and say, this will just peel a shield. Doesn't matter what size the minion is, right? It still does the same job. So you can start with that and still get the double cycling buffs from the double Siren. I know that's something I would have done, at least had in the pocket if I needed it. But it appears Zalking is going to choose not to. Going to potentially end on the Archer.
Yeah, so the only reason to do this is that you specifically want the Taunt Spellcraft that he picked up from the other option that he took. The argument of, well, I'm just going to take a Spellcraft minion because it's a Spellcraft minion and it provides extra buffs is nonsense, right? Because the Siren just provides more buffs at the end of the turn by throwing it in there. Yeah. So the only reason to do this, the only justifiable reason, is that you want that extra small Taunt to play around the big opening attacks from the opponent, which is valid. That is a really big factor in terms of combat RNG.
I mean, you can look at it very... Yeah, you look at it very simply, right? If there's a...
Yeah, you see why.
Yeah, exactly. If the Leroy goes in and hits something important, that's a huge deal. If it's just a small taunt minion, great, who cares?
Left. Okay, right means... Oh no, there's actually too much health on the Brute still. It is going to be the win. So now, twice in a row, we've actually called the second place, 1 turn too early. All 3 of these players scrapping. And now it'll be Ashara, or Dragon on Ashara who fights the Ghost. And the 2 players that we've written off consecutively back-to-back are now going to have to fight for their right to party Raven, and they're going to have to go head-to-head against each other.
Can we go back to Zalking for just a second? I want to just triple-check which hero power he went for. Yeah, he went for Saurfang, right? He can push attack on a small minion from, like, the Brute. That's how that works, isn't it?
Yes, but that's not the Saurfang hero power. Saurfang is 1 mana, add attack to a minion you buy.
Oh, it's not Saurfang. What? Yeah. I can't remember what hero power it is.
It's the Drekthar Vandar pair. 1 is health, 1 is attack, whichever way around that works.
Drekthar's attack. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. I remembered this much better when there was buddies, because like the buddies like, filled it out for you. But yeah. Anyway, regardless, that's potentially a big deal. Like the increasing the attack by that much.
Yep. Definitely a big factor.
Triple eel is available as well for Max. Gonna gain Max. He's gonna gain Max spellcraft though, of course.
Lovely stuff. Yeah. Is he though?
Yeah. Does he just? Is he? I guess he just bails out and plays Leroy. I didn't look at his gold amount because I was just staring at the triple and assumed he would have enough. But yeah, he doesn't. Not one. He can, but not have enough currently.
And it's such a huge fight, right? This actual fight right now is just so big that I just don't think you can afford to really greed anything. Yeah, I love this decision. As long as these spellcrafts go through in these last 2 seconds, I love the way this has been played. I love the positioning as well. That is a lot of really good decision-making in a very tiny amount of time at the end of the turn. Normally, I think when you see players take too long over a decision there, they then mess up things like positioning at the end, right? Because they're too frantically trying to get everything in just based on their decision of what they were going to buy. Despite it not working out here for Max, I really love what he did there. No Divine Shields of his own, so he went with the Ghoul into Leroy. But his positioning went Ghoul into huge minion of his own that can then value trade the Divine Shield taunt that your opponent is going to have. Then Leroy third to potentially just go into the meaty center of the Naga board and be able to kill like a 150 health minion. So he got everything right, in my opinion, based on that final decision making in a very, very tiny amount of time. But it just wasn't good enough, and it's going to be Zalking picking up at the least second here. But then Zephyrus 3 Wishes, finding him the board space, tripling the Athissa now. now. And now there is room for
siren.
something. For example, yes, another Siren to be able to take space on this board. But that's the question. Does Salking want more scaling here? Or does he want to end his board with a tech card? Does he want to end it with another taunt, with another potential, even a cleave to take off multiple divine shields, find a Leroy, something like that? There's lots of different ways he could go about doing this, but it looks like he is just going to efficiently dump his gold into scaling here and hope that it's good enough.
Yeah, I think he did have limited roles to actually decide, right? I think he had like a role or so at that point to just say, well, what's the shop showing me? And then I
would have had 3, I think, in total, where he would still be able to buy like a potentially game-winning tech card, maybe 2. I can't remember what the interval was at exactly. But yeah, I can't necessarily dispute this. He has gold and Athissa, right? There's no necessary reason to think that you can't scale past your opponent.
Right.
However, quite big over here.
Yeah, with sort of the fleshed out tech cards as well, right? He's getting the taunt on the Mantid. Still has Leroy in hand, which I imagine is the plan to finish on. Yeah, as he's going to play it. Looks like he's going to... Is that taunted up as well? Nice.
As well, yeah. Very different approach, right, as to what these two players are doing with their final turn. Salking just went for the straight-up scaling. Dragon is teching out much more aggressively. Extra taunts, extra Leroy, extra Mantid Queen. We'll see which way this pans out. Cannot read the player reaction as the person that will be looking at the odds right now. But that small bumper not going into the Divine Shield Poison is a very big deal. Now this is a huge 50-50. No! Oh, the Divine Shield being taken off before the attack made it all irrelevant. And that means that beautiful mid-game sequence of attacks from Dragon is going to mean that he takes down this lobby. But congratulations to Salking on a great recovery game as well. After his start, I think that was a much better played game, a much more fortunate game from his perspective as well. Some good decisions made in the mid-game. Some nice hero power rolls. Starting, I think, with that Kel'Thuzad's Kitty, right? Just coming out at exactly the right time, giving the Foe Reaper, which allowed him to consolidate tempo, be aggressive, transformed into that second place. And now you can see starting to creep up. He's off the bottom and he's now chasing down Zixo, and still no check in the lobby just yet. No one hitting that 20 points just yet.
And look how important this is, Subtle. Alucard, due to a pretty not great game in the last game there, cannot hit the check number in this next lobby, whereas Dragon, I believe, the only player who can, right? And Dragon doesn't even need like a win to hit it.
It's a top 4.
Yeah, it needs a top 4, and I think over the past 2 days we've been seeing Dragon play. He has impressed me a lot, and you can see already just the points, just steady points, nothing too crazy. Even if his worst game so far was still 3 points, but then a 6 and a 7. He's put himself in a great position, and this is what I was talking about. Once you start to hit these numbers, players can say like, oh, I only need top 4. Then this is where the game plan can start to change again, right? Where you say, well, I don't need to really go for it. If it's offered to me, fantastic. Yes, I'll try and win the lobby, but the backup plan is definitely going to be there in Dragon's mind.
And specifically, you've shouted it out rightly, saying that Dragon has been super impressive. I said yesterday he was my player of the tournament on day 1. I've seen nothing so far that's changed my mind. But specifically and contextually in this situation, what was the thing that he did that impressed us the most? He took bad games and he turned them into top 4s, which is a skill set right now that is super exciting when you just need 4 points to put the lobby in check. Because if he gets a good game, great, right? Top 4 probably secured. We enter the check phase of the tournament and we move on. If he gets a bad game, that scrappy gas coiler, grey-bowed stuff that we saw previously, the death rattle synergies, the tempo with the murlocs that we saw, those kind of like creative ways to turn bad games into top 4s. If he's able to do that again in a bad lobby, well, that's just as good as getting a first in this situation with high roll Nagas, because he will still put the lobby in check.
Yeah.
So exactly the skills that Dragon demonstrated yesterday could now potentially come in clutch in this situation to allow him to put the lobby in check.
Yeah, he's put himself in a great position. And again, you know, another shout out to Sao King as well. He was looking to be in a terrible spot. And although he's nowhere near able to put the lobby in check for himself, he's back in the fight, right? He's still in the mix with a lot of the other players, especially depending on how the next game goes. So he's still in there. And Yannisei really now is the player who has to sort of mimic Sao King, right? Yannisei had a good game one, but then has failed or trailed off miserably in the next two games. So he's sitting alone at 6 points on the bottom of the table so far. Everyone else, again, really will be looking to, you know, the likes of Alucard, Max, Dappy as well, will be looking at in a solid game under their belt in the next game, because as we said, impossible for those players to put the lobby in check within the next game, but they can set it up to be in a very comfortable position where it can almost be just don't 7th or 8th. You know, just grab a few points and then we're in check and we're good to go. That's all they have to do. So that each player now has very different focuses in the next game. And then once players get in check, we'll change the strategy all over again. It's why I really like this format for to finish off the weekend of Lobby Legends.
Yeah, and just watching that recap again, those Wind Fury attacks from that Lava Lurker was so grimy. Like, taking down one huge minion with the Divine Shield, and then even though it was a bump, it was a 100+ stat minion being used essentially as a bumper, is what that attack was, taking off a Divine Shield. But because that was a value trade bump, taking that Divine Shield off, it made the rest of the combat RNG basically irrelevant at that point, because no matter where that attack went, it didn't have Divine Shield, so it would have died to the Leroy. That would have been fine regardless, but because the Divine Shield was taken off, it would have then died to the Mantid Queen, because I was about to say this is an insane 50-50 coming up on the next attack, but that bump from the Lava Lurker just absolutely changed everything, gave Dragon that lobby, and now has put us in that position where everything we've been saying for the last 2 or 3 minutes or so has become true. Dragon in a really good position now to become the threat, right, in this lobby. And then the tournament changes, because then Dragon has a target on his back, and everyone will be trying their best to murder this player.
Oh, okay, I could, you know, try and power level this turn. Oh, I'm facing Dragon, tempo minions go.
Yep.
Just try and beat him up. But although we cannot say it is halfway through the day like it was yesterday, we are going to go just a bit of a longer break. Just give, obviously, the players have been, you know, grinding pretty hard so far in these past 3 games. We'll just give everyone a little bit of a longer break, just to, you know, go and grab a snack, go and do whatever they need to do, and just stand up and maybe walk around for a minute or two. But don't go anywhere. We will be back to continue Lobby Legends Noblegarden.